What is going on, everybody? It is Tuesday. We have a 10-game NBA slate to break down, and I'm about to do it right here for both DraftKings and FanDuel. Going to be looking at the top overall projected plays at the time I'm recording, core guys at each position, my best projected lineups, and all I'm going to ask from you is do me a favor, just like, follow, subscribe if you like this content and find it helpful. And if you want to sign up for our NBA package, there's a link below for you guys to sign up with. Now, I'm going to favor my top 150 lineups. There are a ton of players on the injury report, and we'll be talking about that as we go here. But the number one injury report information that we already know in terms of somebody who's already been ruled out and is not questionable, that is going to be Trae Young. He's out due to personal reasons. So the best value situation as of right now, it is that Atlanta Hawks spot where there are a bunch of players projecting really well. And you'll see that here in my top projected lineup, which has Anthony Melton, Bogdan Bogdanovic, DeAndre Hunter, Robert Covington, DeAndre Ayton, Cade Cunningham, Saddiq Bey, Nikola Jokic. So we've got Bogdanovic, Hunter, and Saddiq Bey in my top projected lineup. So 3 Atlanta Hawks players. And then also we've got some other players, Anthony Melton and Robert Covington. They could be benefiting because we currently have Joel Embiid listed as questionable for the 76ers. So if Embiid doesn't play, that opens up all kinds of usage and playing time over in Philadelphia. But at least as of now, this is my number one overall best projected lineup. And make sure you come back and check projections later on in the day because 10-game NBA slate, lots of key players on the injury report. Stuff is going to end up changing. But let's go position by position to see what is standing out. First on DK. At point guard, we've got a few core plays here. Anthony Melton, Jordan Clarkson, Colin Sexton. So Melton's already projecting really well. And then if we also happen to have no Joel Embiid for the team, then, we're just going to be getting to all of the 76ers. So Melton, Clarkson, Sexton, those are the core guys that we're looking at right now. Players we're underweight to with point guard eligibility, Mike Conley, Jalen Suggs, and Kyrie Irving as well. Shooting guards. Shooting guard core options here. We're getting to all of the Bogdan Bogdanovic, nearly an all-in play for me. He showed up in 94% of lineups. So he clearly rates out as the best overall play on the slate now. And that is probably not going to change. But one thing that could end up being impacted later on the day is if more players get ruled out and a lot of other strong value plays open up. While Bogdanovic wouldn't project any differently, we've got him projected for 31.11 fantasy points. His ownership could come down for me just because there's other guys that I might potentially want to get to as more value opens up. Anthony Melton, he is shooting guard eligibility, getting to a lot of him, as well as Cade Cunningham, Jordan Clarkson, Colin Sexton. Also, kind of surprised to see the lowest ownership on DeJounte Murray. I think that's going to come up as the day goes on. But as of right now, he's only projected for 8% ownership. I think he could end up becoming quite popular with Trae Young out. Players underweight to at the shooting guard position, Jalen Suggs, Kyrie Irving, Shaedon Sharpe, Skylar Mays, Marcus Smart. Small forward core options for DK. Bogdan Bogdanovic, also a small forward eligibility, Saddiq Bey, DeAndre Hunter, Michael Porter Jr. So what are we doing here? Just basically anybody on the Hawks that is forward eligibility, good chance of making it into my lineups. Bogdanovic, 94%, Saddiq Bey, 48.7%, and then DeAndre Hunter, 42.7%. So I'm getting a ton of these Atlanta Hawks guys. Underweight to Azur Thompson, Kyle Anderson, Shaedon Sharpe, and Lauri Markkanen as far as small forward eligible players go. Power forwards now, core options at power forward, building around Robert Covington. Talked about him at the top. Already somebody who's going to likely be playing a bigger role with the 76ers than he did with the Clippers. He was included as part of the James Harden trade. And then also a possibility that if Joel Embiid doesn't play, we could end up getting like 30-plus minutes out of Covington at a cheap price point. Saddiq Bey, DeAndre Hunter, Michael Porter Jr., Jeremy Grant, and Cam Johnson, other core plays at the power forward spot. Cam Johnson, somebody who I haven't really played much of this year, but now you got a situation where he recently came back from injury for the Nets. I don't think he's going to have a minutes restriction anymore. And with Cam Thomas out, it should be more usage and opportunity for Cam Johnson. Underweight to at the power forward position, Azur Thompson, Kyle Anderson, Lauri Markkanen, and also guys that were underweight to with small forward eligibility. Center core options, we're getting to, once again, Covington, DeAndre Ayton, Nikola Jokic, Clint Capella. There's a bunch of value already on the slate, and it looks like there's only going to be more of it as the day goes on. So while I currently have 32.7% of Jokic, he could end up in nearly half of my lineups if enough value opens up to make it really easy to pay up for him. And then underweight to Okongwu, Bam Adebayo, and Zion Williamson as far as center eligible players. And I'm going to be playing a good amount of Clint Capella. I think it makes sense to be underweight to Okongwu here. But now let's sim out some lineups for the FanDuel slate. See what pops up on FanDuel. The payout structure on FanDuel for tonight. Let's see. What is first place paying out on FanDuel? FanDuel main tournament, 25% to first, $400,000 prize pool, 100,000 of it to first. So while these lineups are swimming, I want to give you guys a run through everything we're looking at on the injury report. Already mentioned that Joel Embiid is questionable. Already mentioned that Trae Young is out. But here's what else we have to look at. LeBron James is questionable. He missed the Lakers last game. If we see LeBron sit again, Anthony Davis takes on the number one usage role for the Lakers. He becomes somebody that becomes a much stronger payout option, while we would also have guys like Austin Reeves, D'Angelo Russell. They would take on bigger roles in the usage department as well, and they would look better. We have Steph Curry listed as questionable for Golden State. If Curry isn't able to play, Gary Payton Jr., Gary Payton II, the mitten, whatever it is that we want to call him. Gary Payton, he would be somebody who would stand out as a really good value option, while we would also be getting more usage to guys like Klay Thompson. Andrew Wiggins had a really poor year to this point, but I do wonder if Steph Curry being out could be something that just forces him to play a bigger role. Gordon Hayward, questionable. Jeremy Sochan, questionable. Herb Jones, questionable. Brandon Miller and Xavier Tillman, also questionable. So that rounds out the rest of the injury report and players to look out for. But now let's look at the top FanDuel lineups. Here's the lineup that I've projected for the highest sim ROI here, and by a pretty good margin, my best lineup over everything else. Cade Cunningham, DeAnthony Melton, Shaedon Sharpe, Jordan Hawkins, Jeremy Grant, Bruce Brown, John Collins, Kelly Olynyk, and Nikola Jokic. So one thing that stands out here is not getting to any of the Hawks ownership, actually, in my number one FanDuel lineup, whereas we are getting to some of the players that were underweight to on DraftKings in my top projected lineup, like Shaedon Sharpe. So it does look like FanDuel way different of a slate playing than on DK in terms of the players I'm getting to. At least what's showing in my top projected lineup. Maybe that'll be different as we go position by position. But let's start with point guard and see what I'm getting to here. A ton of DeAnthony Melton. So that is definitely something that syncs up with what we were seeing on FanDuel, on DraftKings, and also applies to FanDuel. Getting to a ton of DeAnthony Melton, ton of Cade Cunningham, DeJounte Murray, overweight to him here, as well as LaMelo Ball. So those are the guys we're getting the most of with point guard eligibility. Underweight also to Kyrie Irving, underweight to Jordan Clarkson, underweight to Spencer Dinwiddie, Marcus Smart, and Jalen Suggs as well on FanDuel. Shooting guard core options, we have DeAnthony Melton, Shaedon Sharpe. So Sharpe, who we were underweight to on DraftKings, he is in 3/4 of my FanDuel line. So massively looking different play on FanDuel. Also getting to a lot of Cade Cunningham, Jordan Hawkins, Bogdanovich. Still getting to a lot of him on FanDuel, but he's also projected for less ownership. He's more expensive. So 25% of Bogdanovich on FanDuel is compared to him being in north of 90% of my DraftKings lineups. And then Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, also a guy I'm getting to a good amount of. Underweight to Kyrie Irving, Jordan Clarkson, Azur Thompson, Spencer Dinwiddie, Jalen Williams, and Jalen Suggs at shooting guard. Small forward core plays for FanDuel. We have Jeremy Grant popping up in nearly everything. He's like the Bogdanovich of FanDuel today, where I have Jeremy Grant in 90% of lineups. Shaedon Sharpe, Cameron Johnson, Robert Covington, Brandon Ingram, and Bogdanovich, the core plays with small forward eligibility, whereas I'm underweight to Michael Porter Jr., who I was overweight to on DraftKings. Underweight to Azur Thompson, Jalen Williams, Tim Hardaway Jr. Not getting to any of Andrew Wiggins now, only 1.3%, but he's somebody who would project way better if we do end up getting a situation where Steph Curry is ruled out for the Warriors. So just one of the many injury situations to stay on alert with tonight. Power forward core options, Jeremy Grant again, Kelly Olynyk, Zion Williamson. Zion's gotten relatively cheap on FanDuel. Now we're seeing him in like that upper 7K range on most slates. I know we haven't seen the best start to the year for Zion, but still definitely somebody I believe in the talent of. He is massive fantasy upside. We have him project for 42.95 fantasy points. Cameron Johnson, Robert Covington, Zach Collins, the rest of the core plays at the position, and then underweight to Wiggins, Boncaro, and nothing else really too much. Power forward, not any guys that I have massive underweight stands to at the time. Centers. Center core options, Kelly Olynyk, Zach Collins, and once again, Nikola Jokic. So if we get more players that are ruled out, Jokic's exposure is only going to go up for me. And then Zach Collins, Kelly Olynyk, those are two guys who both have power forward eligibility in addition to center, and then getting to some of Joel Embiid here. So if Embiid is out, this is going to do a couple of things. It's going to open up more salary cap flexibility in terms of value. And then it'll also take away a center that I'm getting 13.3% exposure to. So if Embiid doesn't play, I will probably end up north of like 30% of Nikola Jokic on FanDuel. So that is a roundup of everything we're looking at for tonight's slate. If you guys want to sign up for the Sims tool that we have here, which is included part of our NBA package, sign up using the link that we have below. And if you haven't done it yet, do me a favor, like the video, subscribe, and good luck tonight, guys. If you want more information, I will be on live before lock from 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. Eastern time, breaking down all of the latest news at that time and any changes in projections, ownership, and all that. So I hope to see you then.